Boy, you had me from the start. By the way you stared, the way you rolled up on me, yeah. Man, I felt your energy. Wasn't used to being loved and treated differently, yeah. But something went wrong, the signals got crossed, and now we're on completely different pages. Let's go where we were, where no one gets hurt. Baby, keep it right there, don't you stress the flow. You're trying to pick the pace up, we should take it slow. Baby, keep your focus, don't you make me change my mind. If you love me, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Boy, you take me on a trip, always up and down and back and forth in merry-go-round. I just wanna get it right, but when you go left, I'm stuck here feeling.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so good. Like, as I was saying to you, like before we kind of come backstage, been super busy. And hence we obviously didn't do last week, which is very rare for us, isn't it? Not to have like any time every week. So yeah, if I feel like you even look different, I'm like, oh, she looks completely different.
Yeah. It's true, I've missed you so much.
Yeah, it's been a long time, such a long time. But yeah, all good things I know have been happening. It's nice as well. Like, I can't believe it's still light outside. This feels like deja vu now. This feels like last year when we started it, when it was still light outside. Certain times we were sweating in the room. You know what I mean? The light on. It's summer. We're still doing it on a Monday night. It's like, what?
Yeah, I was thinking about that today when it was still light and it was sunny and it was really hot when we started out.
Yeah, it was really, really hot. But yeah, so today, obviously, oh look, we're just talking again like everybody just knows. I think I'm on Instagram, you know, and I'm just like, oh yeah, hey, so let's get it cracking. And really and truly, this is a new world for us. So hello everyone. If it's your first time visiting us on YouTube, welcome to From A to B. We discuss narcissism, codependency, and female empowerment. My name is Bianca Boyce. I'm also a life and business coach. Actually, I might as well just start introducing myself as like an all-round entrepreneur, because I have like currently now 2 other businesses really in hospitality, and soon to be 3. A mega product that I'm bringing out this week that will be launched live on Wednesday on my Instagram. So yeah, soon to be 3. Hey, I don't know how I'm doing it, but it's like, you know,
I don't know how you're doing it.
Trust me. But the more you do it, it's kind of like the more you can do at some point, you know. I tell you what I did do over the weekend as well. That was actually I really loved. I went to that protest on a Saturday, which was really good, and I'm just so for standing up for our freedom and taking our rights back as well. So that was probably like a really fun thing I did last week. But yeah, introduce yourself, A, as well. Anyone who's watching who doesn't know you yet.
So my name's Aynur. I'm a life and narcissistic recovery coach. So just like Bianca, I'm here trying to raise awareness on narcissistic abuse, codependency, female empowerment. And yeah, it all kind of comes from personal experience. I was in a abusive relationship and coming out of that, I trained to be a coach, and now I do Monday nights with Bianca to raise awareness. So
yeah,
that's
we've been doing it for so long as well, haven't we? Like literally
very long time.
Yeah, when I took a week off of it last week, the whole week felt different. I was literally like a day ahead all week, because I was like, oh, surely it was going to be Monday. Like, and it's like, because I know what I do after Monday, I was totally baffled. It was Tuesday. I was like, oh, what's going on? But yeah, today, obviously, we've got a really important topic about why you're a narcissist magnet. So welcome to everyone who's here. Yeah, for those of you who are here, throw up a little heart in the comments, say hi. Yeah, this topic today is really, really key, because one, I love the title, and I love the way that we've done the title, because it puts the power back in your hands. It's like, instead of saying, oh, you know, what is it, putting it all on the narcissist, it's like, actually, let's focus it back on ourselves, so we can ultimately take our power back and stop being in these situations, right? I always say, like, it's really, really difficult to take responsibility and ownership for the things that happen in your life, especially when they are horrific things, right? But it's almost like, and don't get me wrong, this doesn't apply to everything, but it definitely applies to repetitive situations and patterns, right? So when we have harmful patterns in our life, we don't want to take responsibility for it, because it's almost as if to say, you know, we take responsibility, then we're actually as bad as that person then, because that's like saying that it's all self-inflicted. And the issue with that is, the issue with not taking responsibility is that you also can't have any power, because if it's always their fault, there's nothing you can do about it, okay? And so when we are talking to you, understand that we know how manipulative narcissists are off the jump, okay? Me and Aynur are very intelligent women and have been tricked multiple times by narcissists in different arenas, family, friends, relationships, okay? However, the key to our growth, and the key to us stopping this cycle and stopping this harmful pattern for ourselves, was for us to accept the part we played, no matter how big or small, okay? So today, what we're talking about is the part we played. We're going to obviously have a look at like signs and energy from narcissists, but a lot of the focus is going to be on the part we played, because we have the power to repel these people, okay? And we have the power to control the narrative. Narcissists are not intelligent. You know they're not intelligent, because when me and Aynur tell our story, you're all in the comments saying, yeah, me too, me too. Do you know why? They're one-trick ponies. They have a certain set of things that they do. They can't think outside the box. They can't deviate from their narcissistic patterns. We can, right? So this is all about like what we can do today. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely, Boo. I agree. There's just loads of things you can look into that, you know, that we're gonna talk about, that will, you know, when I went through that, coming out of that relationship and that healing process, there's things that you can look at to really identify, you know, where this started, you know, how it started, and really educating yourself. I think that's when you kind of take responsibility, and you can kind of protect yourself in the future as well from these people. So yeah. So
let's go into it, the signs and the energy you get from a narcissist. So one thing that I would say definitely early on from a narcissist is that there's an inconsistency with how you feel and what they're doing, right? So even though the narcissist that I met and was in a relationship with may have been doing nice things, or even though the narcissistic parent that I used to have a relationship with may be doing nice things, it wouldn't always sit right with me. So even though, you know, on the surface it looks good, but in my mind I would have doubts, but I just wouldn't be able to place what that doubt is. So it's like with everybody else, when they do something good, you feel good. With them, you think a little bit. It's like, is this genuine? Is it not genuine? You've got no reason to think it's not genuine, but is it genuine? Is it not? Not sure. Is it too good to be true? All of these things might run through your mind when they're actually being nice to you in the love bombing stage. So that's something that you could use to kind of spot a sign related to energy with narcissists. Yeah, your energy will be off even in a good time with them, if you're willing to admit it.
Yeah. I also think, sorry, I also think the energy within you, you have to look at who you was before this relationship. How was your energy? Was you, an uplifted person? Was you uplifting everyone? Like, how has that changed as well? So even looking at your own energy and how does it change when you're around this person? I remember I was, almost used to get this anxious, my stomach would be in knots approaching, the person's house. And my energy would just be like, something was telling me, I didn't know if it was butterflies or I didn't know if I was anxious. I didn't know the difference. I was like, what is wrong with me? Why do I feel my body was just reacting in a certain type of way? So even the energy within yourself, how it's changed or how you feel around this certain type of person is really interesting to look into as well, I think. Really.
Yeah, I think so. And also, guys, for those of you in the who are watching live now, in the comments, like, put up a heart if you've ever been in a narcissistic relationship, and put up a smiling emoji if you've had a narcissistic family member. I would like to see like what the balance is, because for me, I genuinely, and obviously put up the heart and the smiling face if you've had both, right? Because for me, I see a correlation in them, and this is where we're kind of looking at what attracted, like why narcissists are so attracted to you, and we're going to talk about this from our perspective. It's to do with the energy that you kind of put out in the first place and what you're actually attracted to, not on a conscious level but on a subconscious level, right? So there's a quote that says, when you're familiar with hell, heaven feels uncomfortable, right? And up until the point when I realized I was codependent and had been, in numerous relationships, friends, family, work, partner with a narcissist, before I knew that, it was kind of like, the other thing I knew is I was one of those women who's kind of like, oh, people are too nice, and, don't really trust nice people, and don't really trust really harmonious situations. And it's because I was used to chaos. You get what I mean? So yeah, I think that when you're kind of raised by, and you have a relationship with a parent where you're seeking approval, you're raised and you have some type of something missing within you. Even if you can be fulfilled in those areas, you have something missing within you that you don't know that you can feel yourself. You believe that something external needs to feel that, because that hole was created by another person, by a parent, by a figure that you kind of looked up to. That's where that hole first begun. And so you believe that another person needs to feel that in order for you to be okay, when actually it's a lot of self-love and a lot of work on your own self-esteem that's going to fix it. So I think for me, like, one of the things that I know attracted narcissists to me was the wounds that I had, that on the outside you couldn't really see, but it was always there. Okay. And fundamentally, narcissists are wounded people, and you know what they say, real recognize real. So they can recognize that actually you're wounded as well, because they see the signs of it, in the way that you kind of in the way that you kind of carry yourself as well. Let's have a look at the comments as well, what's going on. Anne-Marie's in the house. Amazing. Yeah. Yes, Queen. She's got a heart and a smiley emoji. A lot of us have it. A lot of us have it for sure. What about you, A? Like, why would you say the reason that you believe you was a narcissist, like magnet?
Probably coming off the point that you're making, B, and just childhood in general. I think growing up with a narcissistic parent, it often, that behavior becomes kind of normal. It becomes kind of familiar to you. And when something's familiar, it's often comforting in a weird way. And you would think growing up, you would have enough of that person, you would have enough of that behavior, and you'd want to run away. But often what happens is, like, that is what you kind of attract, because that's kind of been your blueprint. It's been your normal growing up. You've learned how to deal with that person. You've learned how to work around that person. You've learned how to, just how to work around and have that person in your life for so long. So when someone comes that feels familiar, you're going to know how to work around them. It's going to be often like, I've done this my whole life, I can do it again. But I think that kind of happens subconsciously. I never went into the relationship thinking, oh, they remind me of my dad, and that's why, it just happens very subconsciously. It was very, and I remember being it, and then often being like, wait, you remind me of my dad. The way you're acting is really weird, like when they would act up. So often a lot of these things come from our childhood, and it happens subconsciously, and it's only when you come out and you reflect, and maybe through therapy, I know mine was through therapy and really breaking everything down, you understand, what, again, like you said, B, the hole you're trying to fill, and also why you was attracted and stayed with a certain type of person, why, you was there for so long. So again, I think that childhood had a really big thing to play in it for me.
Definitely. And I think there's something that we overlook as things that attract narcissists to you. And I remember saying to you in the beginning that when I really went through it, and I was literally like at rock bottom in it, shadow of myself, like shadow of a shadow even, right? No personality, no drive, no nothing. There was nothing to me that anyone could describe as anything significant. I literally was just an empty shell. And I remember when I got to that point thinking how wrong I had been about my own perception about the type of women that end up in narcissistic relationships and who end up suffering narcissistic abuse. Because prior to me being in that situation, I had only ever met women when they looked like they were down and out, when they had nothing, when they were a shadow of themselves. So because I'd only met women like that, my perception was that that's how they always were in that relationship. Do you get what I mean? My perception was that narcissistic men went for women who were outwardly broken, who were outwardly more vulnerable then, But actually I was completely wrong. And one of the things that definitely made me a magnet for narcissists was my strength. Do you get what I mean? Because you see, the thing is about this baffled me for ages. I used to think, why go for a strong person? Like, why would you do that? Why not go for like the easy option? But really and truly, like, the people who we're calling, society called, and I'll admit I would have called a weaker person, is not really. They're a person who acknowledges their feelings. They're a person who says, I'm not okay with this, I can't cope with this, all things that I've had to learn to do over time. People who are truly vulnerable, people who truly have great wounds, often appear outwardly strong. And narcissists know that, okay? And narcissists know that when you're outwardly strong to the world, generally, you've been through a lot of bad stuff, okay? I don't know people who are outwardly strong and who people recognize as powerful that don't have a very traumatic story, right? In the same way that narcissists know it. So I think for me, definitely, like, I had to really get my head around that perception that, my strength was part of a draw for a narcissist. It was not actually going to repel them at all. And so all of these women that you have out here with independent, crying out they're independent, crying out they don't need a man, crying out they'll fix everything on their own. You're also crying out for a narcissist to come over to you because they see you and they're like, oh, you don't want a man because you've been messed around so many times. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in and be like, you know what? That's over, my darling. I am here now. Do you get what I mean? And I'm here to change your world. And you're going to fall for that, because as much as you're crying out to the world that you don't need a man, when you're at home, you're crying alone and you do want one. Do you get what I mean? So it's a totally different, you have to think differently when you're thinking about narcissists. They're not stupid. They understand you know, they understand things about human behavior that we would never understand unless we research it, which is why we're kind of raising awareness now as well. Also, guys, I know you're in the chat now, but if you close the chat box, could you just like the video for us as well? It just helps other people to know that we're live, and it will help us to push out to more people who may be going through the same situation as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. What about you, Ray? What else would you say? What was the most surprising thing for you that you realized was attracting narcissists to you?
I think being over empathetic and also over forgiving as well. So, you know, I used to see empathy and being kind to people and really feeling people's emotions is such a good thing. Like, it's something I still really, really, really like about myself. I love that. I care so much for people. But the thing is with narcissists is that, you know, they see that as a weakness. They see that as an opportunity, you know, because they're going to come with a victim story. They're going to come with something that is going to, you know, almost break you down and almost, you know, and it doesn't stop, you know, the victim playing, the stories that they're going to tell you, the positions they're going to put you in, it doesn't stop. So as an empathetic person, you're going to keep, you know, giving and giving and giving and giving, and they're just going to keep taking and taking and taking it. And before you know, you're in a cycle where it's just, you have given so much of yourself. And being an empathetic person as well, you know, you often blame yourself, you know, what more can I do? And you want to do more, you keep doing more and more and more, and they just keep taking and taking and taking. And I guess that's how you get to a stage where you're just a shell of yourself. You don't have anything more to give. So I guess that was surprising to me, because I, coming into this, you know, always viewed it as such a good thing. And I think it is, but I think it needs to come with boundaries. It needs to come with being educated on narcissism. It needs to come with, boundaries. And I didn't have them. You know, I had no boundaries. I didn't know anything about narcissism or abuse or emotional or mental abuse. I didn't know any of this. So I think empathy is such a beautiful thing, but it needs to come with those things as well. Because that's one thing they really, really prey on. If you're empathetic and you've got, you know, you've got so much to give, I think, and you don't have those boundaries, you're so much easier to break down, because you're just going to keep giving as a person, you know. So I think that was one big thing for me.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it as well, because it's almost like, you know, it's really difficult because we live in the kind of world that basically has told us that if we have boundaries and if we say no to anything, that we're selfish. And I don't know where the notion came from. Do you get what I mean? I think it's a lot more selfish that people want you to be doing things that you don't actually want to do. Like, who wants that? Who wants someone to go out to dinner with them when they don't want to do it, but they're there because they just don't want to say no? Like, what kind of idiot? Do you get what I mean? But actually, this is how people have become. It's like it's very narcissistic, a very like instant gratification kind of world where everyone wants things when they want it, and if you don't give it to them, then they call you selfish. When actually they're quite self-centered, you know. But ultimately, if you've been, you know, you've grown up and you've always felt guilty for not doing things, and you know you don't know, if you don't know how to sit in guilt, it's another reason why narcissists will be attracted to you. They'll play out a number of situations. They'll make you watch films that have things in it, like someone cheating, and then ask you, you know, what would you do in that scenario? And you know, but what would you do? Okay, fair enough. Maybe you wouldn't forgive them now. What would you do if you found out their mum died, though? Or what would you do if you found out their cat died, or whatever it was? And they'll use all of these other scenarios that you think are not relevant to test your reaction to certain things, okay? And so, like, very often when I was with that narcissist, whenever we would watch a film, every time a scene would happen that was, you know, a traumatic scene or a scene that evoked emotion, either really happy, really sad, really angry, they would always look at me to see what my reaction was. so that they could read my reaction and get a better gauge of like, okay, what does she emotionally react to? Because if I emotionally react to someone being in a car crash, hey presto, the next time something happens that's bad and I'm going to put my foot down on it, then someone in their family's going to have a car crash. Do you get what I mean? It's literally like that. So, you know, another thing that, and it's really sad, because I don't want everyone going out there kind of dating and acting like a mute. But the amount that women talk really doesn't help as well when it comes to attracting narcissists. Tell all of your information. Like, people ask you a question, you just start talking and telling everything about yourself. And it's like, women, what's going on? These guys, like, they're out to get you. Do you get what I mean? And then you go to your friends, you'll be like, oh my God, we had such a good conversation. We were talking for ages. It was such a deep conversation. Your friend says, what do you know about him? You don't know anything, my darling. He knows everything about you. You don't even know his last name. You don't even know his last name. Do you get what I mean? And so it's just, it's sad. But, you know, when you've been in these patterns for so many years, you know, and for a lot of women, it's so many years, not necessarily in relationships, but, you know, it will start with a parent, then it will go into your workplace, and then it's your best friends, and then it's, you know, relationships. And it's like, you get to a point, and I know it's horrible, but you have to change how you are. You have to start saying, you know what, I'm going to just keep my mouth shut a bit. Or I'm going to select, you have to test them. I'm going to selectively give information that if it was thrown back in my face would hurt me. And I'm going to watch and see if it's come back in my face or not.
Yeah. I did actually hear that this week, Bianca. I heard someone saying, you know, when you meet someone, don't tell them, you know, what really upsets you. Don't tell them what you hate and what you like and what you hate, and you know, straight away. Don't do that on the first time you meet someone, because it gives all the answers. It gives them, you know, how they're going to upset you, what's going to get on your nerves, what buttons they're going to press, you know. And with a narcissist, you know, you're just giving them the keys to the door, basically. Yeah. You're giving them all the answers. They don't have to figure you out at all, because you've literally just told them, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, this is annoys me, blah, blah, blah. So I heard that this week as well, actually. Someone was talking about that. Don't do it.
And the thing is, it's like, it's really difficult, because for people like you and me, we're online now and our pages are open. And a lot of people in these comments will have their pages open. And then you're like, Jesus, I mean, what do people like you or me do? Do you get what I mean? But actually, like, what I done, was just be like, no. I worked on myself enough that I don't care who's looking at my page. Because if you believe, if you're looking at my page, look at everything on my page. Look at what I say I've been through, and look at how I say I handle it. Because I'm not playing with how I handle it. Do you get what I'm saying? So if people wanted to come to me, like, you know, before I met my partner that I'm with now, he wanted to come to me on a tip of, oh yeah, I've seen everything that's going on with her, and nothing would happen if I'd done anything. He could have, but I know what I'm on. Do you get what I'm saying? I know what I'm on. So I know if you're genuine, we're going to be fine. And if you're not, all hell's going to break loose, because never again am I going to be in a situation like that. Do you get what I'm saying? So for me, I think, you know, if we're talking about when you become a narcissist repellent, you become a narcissist repellent when you commit fully to never losing yourself again. I don't care what I lose in this world, okay? Now some things that are really precious to me, and like when it comes to family, you know what I mean? Precious, and, you know, my partner. But I'm talking about in terms of my possessions, okay? I'm talking about things that I've kind of achieved or acquired. If I lose them, I'll get them back, okay? Because I'm that type of person. But if you think I'm losing myself for anyone, man, woman, child, I'm not. Do you get what I mean? Because it is literally like being dead, and simultaneously, it's like walking dead on earth. Walking dead, right? And so when you've really had enough of that, and that point comes when you really decide to admit to yourself what your real relationships with family, friends, work colleagues, partners are really like. And when you stop playing and pretending that you're giving as good as you get, or you didn't care anyway, when you stop doing that and you really say, no, you know what, this is what's happened to me, you come to a point and you're thinking, I'm not doing that again. And you then have boundaries, because you know, look, it's either getting boundaries and standards at a certain point, or watching your own demise. It's like you sign your own death sentence in. Because the thing is, the only way you really get to know whether someone's a narcissist is from the point when you start putting down boundaries with them. Before that, you won't know. A narcissist can stay under cover for years if you'll keep on giving attention, sex, money, praise, adoration, whatever. If you are only giving supply to that narcissist and you are never giving anything else, they can stay undercover for quite a long time. But the minute you put down boundaries, they will appear. So part of the thing that I do when I'm talking to people who have dealt with narcissists in different arenas, and I'm working with them, is I get them to put down boundaries and watch what happens. It's always a really, really bad reaction that they get. Do you get what I mean? Maybe not the first time, but definitely the second. And so you'll get to a point where it doesn't matter whether a narcissist is attracted to you. Narcissists will love me for the rest of my life. Why? Because I'll be successful and amazing for the rest of my life. So this is what they want. Do you get what I'm saying? If you've been out of a narcissist, congratulate yourself because you're creme de la creme. Do you get what I mean? You are the top of top because they only want the best in everything. They will ruin you, but in the beginning, they only want the best. So I understand that, but it doesn't frighten me anymore. I remember there was a long period of time I was so frightened, thinking, God, like, I don't know if I want to date again. And it wasn't because I didn't trust, it wasn't anything to do with other people. I didn't trust myself to look after myself because I hadn't done it yet. I hadn't seen myself love someone and say no. Do you get what I mean? Really say no. I hadn't seen it. I'd never witnessed it. So it was like, okay, maybe in the beginning when you don't like people, you probably could do it, Bianca. But what are you going to do when you actually love someone and they do something that you think is a bit out of line? What's going to happen? Are you going to put your foot down? Are you going to say, actually, no, I love you, but this can't continue? Do you get what I mean? What are you going to do? And, I had to prove that to myself quite a few times in order for me to calm down and get more trust with myself. Do you know what I mean? And in the end, you become so skilled at it. For some reason, narcissists don't like you anymore. I don't know what happens, and I don't care, but they literally come out of their mouth now. If I'm introduced to a narcissist, they will actually come out and say to whoever introduced me to them, I don't like her. And I love it. Do you get what I mean? It used to happen to my best friend, to be fair. People used to not like her. She's an Aries like you. And people would meet her. She wouldn't really like them, but she wouldn't say anything. I remember one, like my longest term partner, when I say hated him, if she could have like smashed him in the face, she would have done it a million times. You get what I mean? She hated him. And she was the only person he hated. But turns out he was a narcissist. Do you get what I mean? But yeah, now I'm her. I'm that one. You bring me around your new partner or your friend that's narcissistic, they will despise me. Literally despise me. So if anyone in the comments has like got a bit of doubts or anything, jump on Zoom with me and your partner and we'll see. They like me. We're on to a good one. Do you get me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good one. Yeah.
Can we have a look at the comments quickly?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Willing to please others without respecting myself and not trusting my body with my intuition. Yeah, definitely.
I think people can agree with that.
I can relate to Aynur on that one. Yeah, it's always the same story, isn't it, really?
I mean, the amount of times, you know what? I kind of look forward to the day where we've got our like community of women here, and they say, we're telling stories about how things, are with narcissists, and they say, oh, I used to be like that. You get what I mean? I used to be like that too, because it's nice to see people like overcome different things as well. And you know what? I think it's really hard. I'm going to try and find my diary at some point. I wrote a diary at that time of just different diary inserts of how I would feel and, things that I would think at the time. And I just think it will be really good to share some of that at some point on here because, it's really difficult. People will look at us now and think, oh, look at them talking about narcissism. They're confident. They can speak about it so freely. And even, as much as these situations, they're a long time off. But even when we first started doing this series, we were a bit like, oh, what the hell? doing, you know.
I was like, I can't do this. I was freaking out every single time before a live, guys.
Yeah.
I would literally be on the phone to Bianca, like I'm literally pooing myself. Like I
Yeah.
can't. The nerves. I was so scared. Like, yeah, it's scary. It still is. It still is. You know, depending on your situation, and you know, these are dangerous people. They know where you live. Like, it's a scary thing to do, but once you've got to a point where you see things, you know, you're out of it, and you look back at the big picture, and you're like, you know what? And you get that confidence, and you get yourself back. It's so much easier. You're not scared anymore. Like, okay, do what you've got to do. You know, if you're going to come, you're going to come. Like, the cause is bigger. I think spreading awareness and not letting another person go through anything we went through is bigger than whatever they're going to do, you know? And I know that all depends on the situation and how dangerous the person is. But I think at this point, yeah, I've stopped caring as much, V.
Yeah, you need to, because you know, a lot of it as well is like, again, why narcissists like you, they can see those things that you'd be easily scared or intimidated, or, do you get what I mean? Those type of things as well. And like I said, you know, sometimes the strongest person in the room, they're actually the weakest. Do you get what I mean? The loudest person in the room is the most scared. And definitely, I would say, I mean, I always talk loud anyway, but I can't really hear properly, so it's never going to stop. Do you get what I mean? And I don't think I would like not talking loud, but, you know, I used to be even more loud than this. I would go in rooms and like, rah, do you get what I mean? Here I am, and, you know, always wanted, like, to entertain. I don't think it would be necessarily a case of, like, attention, but wanted to entertain, make people laugh, make people whatever, make people dance, you know, I have the best parties, all that type of thing. I'm the best host, entertainer. Is that, you know what I mean? It's that type of thing. And I think, you know, it all falls into that same remit of like just always thinking of other people for yourself. I used to spend like hundreds of pounds on my birthday party. And okay, I know it's my birthday party, but it's my birthday party. Why am I keep spending hundreds of pounds to entertain all these people on my birthday? Do you get what I mean? It's like, what's going on? And don't get me wrong, if I want to do it, I will, but I used to do it whether I wanted to or not. Do you get what I mean? Because everybody else wants me to do certain things. Also, we've got like about 15 minutes left. If anyone's got any questions, please do ask us, because these are obviously done specifically for you, and there isn't a question that we can't answer. So, or at least signpost you to where the answer is. So please do use this time as well while we're live to ask us questions. But yeah, I think if we're kind of looking at what else could I say about why narcissists are attracted? Okay, how about this? You like them. It's another reason narcissists are attracted to you. You like them. Do you get what I mean? It's like, it seems really simple. But you like them. You like that person. You telling your girls, you know what? Every other guy was in there dancing and all that. He was just silent. He just didn't say anything in the corner of the room. He had glasses on, whatever the hell he was doing. Do you get what I mean? Like, whatever he was doing that was so mysterious, so, you know, so mysterious that you decided you wanted to turn into an investigator and start investigating this person and getting to the root of who he really was. You like them. And as long as you like narcissists as well, that's who you're going to go out with. Do you get what I mean? And you have to admit that. You have to admit that there's a part of you that gets some type of adrenaline rush from going out with this type of person, that gets some type of fulfillment from desperately seeking to get to the root of who someone is, when there isn't really a root of who they are. There's nothing. The reason why it takes them so long to open up to you is there's nothing for them to say. They haven't got no substance. Do you get what I mean? But, you know, you carrying on and playing these games. So again, it's like, if we take responsibility, you like it. You like it, you like them, and yeah,
and I think I've said this before, it's really interesting to look into why you're attracted to a certain type of person, a certain characteristic, where that comes from, you know. And once you do kind of find out the root cause, it is, you know, it's so interesting, and it kind of it makes you rethink who you're attracted to and why you're attracted to that certain type of person. And yeah, it's interestingly when you get to that.
Yeah, okay, so we've got a question here. Okay, this is, I actually know this person. This is actually quite funny. And this person, I don't think they're asking on their own behalf, but I think they're asking for a friend. So they wanted to know how you can make sharing a flat with a narcissist a more bearable experience. So the way to do that is to change the locks. When they leave next time, change the locks, call the police, and never let them back in again.
Yeah, there is no way. There is no way.
Yeah.
There is, you know, there's techniques like grey rock, stonewalling, things like that. You can go grey rock where you completely, you know, kind of just shut yourself off and you give one word answers and you're emotionless and you don't react to anything that they're doing. You can do that, but you know, how long are you going to do that for? You know, I did that for so long that I was basically numb inside. You know, there is no way of living with these people. You know, there is going to be something, you're going to get triggered one way or another. So yeah, I think the only way is to leave and live by yourself. There's no long-term solution, you know. It's
there's no long-term solution at all. And I think God, living with them is literally like the most tiring thing you ever do in life. You just don't get a break from anything. Like, they want something all the time. There's nothing you can do. They have an insatiable appetite that you'll never feel in any arena. Everything they ask you for, they always want more. Do you get what I mean? So it's just, absolutely insane. But if you, I've actually got to go with a coach, actually, without knowing those actual techniques. Yeah, it's true.
That's actually what happens, I think, to a lot of people. Be in those situations, you naturally become very, very numb to everything. I know that's something I really experienced, where I was just, you know, coming out of it, I was so numb to everything, everyone around me, and it took me a very, very long time to get in touch with my emotions again, and even cry and like feel anything. It took me a very, very long time. So I think that's really normal. I think that happens a lot with people. It just happens naturally. It's a way of coping, a way of surviving, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, that's what makes it so hard when you actually do acknowledge what you've been through as well, because you've spent so long without any feeling at all. It's like the way you react to having feelings is like way bigger than you normally would, because actually now sadness feels like a million times more because you haven't been sad for years. Do you get what I mean? Like, I know someone who is in a narcissistic relationship for many years and constantly readjusting their expectations, and literally got to a point where they could experience cheating, any type of abuse, without even reacting to it. Literally, there was nothing. No tears, no nothing, because it was so normal. Do you get what I mean? And their fault being numb to it was a good sign, but it's actually like a sign of now more troubling things. Now we're going into kind of PTSD territory, okay? Because when you actually start to kind of relax and feel now it's going to be shocking. Now it's going to be anxiety inducing, you know, which is like, it's a lot to handle. Really is a lot to handle. Okay, so it's quite annoying because he's been my friend for 10 years. Since high school, but throughout my years of living with him, I was starting with completely different people. This is really interesting, okay? Super interesting, because what happens is that when, this is how narcissists stay undercover, okay? And I was talking the other day about my parent who's a narcissist, and someone said something to me about them, and oh, you know, I've never ever noticed this, or I've never actually thought this, or I thought they was a really, really good person. Yeah, they are. Simultaneously, they are. But the people who are closest to them, personal romantic relationship, parents, people who live with them, you are going to see a very different side of that person than the rest of the world. You know, to the world, you might see a kind humanitarian who's very, very who is very outgoing, very bubbly, you know, very enthusiastic, life and soul of the party. And at home, they are the most miserable, disgraceful human being, critical human being you ever come across. And so the reason why you will see it is because narcissists can't actually hide. And that's why there's rules when it comes to relationships and, you know, moving in with people and all those kind of things where people say, give it time in that intimate setting before you actually make a long-term commitment with people, because you will then see who people really are. Now, don't get me wrong, it's hard living with people anyway, right? You've got different needs, you've got different wants, and you've got different habits. So you're always going to have something happening when you live with someone. There's a bit of a conflict. But the moment you start questioning what you should say, where you should go, how you should eat, how loud, what time, if you should bring your partner over, if you should go in the shared front room, if you should go in the shared kitchen, now is a problem. Because you should never be second guessing what you're doing with anyone, right? And I'm really glad that you brought that up, because actually, when you find yourself in that scenario, it can be really isolating, because everyone else, all your other friends, will have the same opinion you had before. So now you look like some whiny person, like, what are you talking about? That person's really cool. Because probably when you have your mates over, they're probably not like that as well, which actually can be quite damaging, because when you see them with other people acting normally and they're not acting normally with you, you can start to think there's something wrong with you, and there isn't. It's just that they're putting on a show for everyone else. So it's really harsh. I mean, I stand by my first bit of advice. If you can go with it, change the locks on them, you know, pay the bills, and just, you know what I mean? And just like stay on your own, because they're nasty. I mean, I would quite like it if they had, like I always say, it, Narcissist Village, you know? Narcissist Village would be really, really great, and just send them all there.
And that is such a big sign as well, B, that you're in a narcissistic relationship, when someone is acting completely different outside than they are inside. You know, 1 minute, you know, I think you've given the example so many times where the phone will ring and they'll be the happiest person in the world, when 2 minutes ago they were screaming and shouting. So even those imbalances and inconsistencies, I think, is definitely something to look out for as well.
Yeah. I think we've got another comment come through as well on there. Okay, my girlfriend actually doesn't come to the flat anymore because of him. Yeah, it's only 3 months after until I move into a new house with her anyway, and I happen to know who your girlfriend is, and she's absolutely amazing. So go you. But yeah, I'm not surprised. Like I said, I know who your girlfriend is. She probably wants to punch him in the face, so it's best you do leave her out of the house, because I'll encourage her as well. Yeah, leave her out of the house. But that's exactly how it gets. And you know what? You probably don't want her around his energy either, because it's one thing kind of putting up with this for yourself, but you know, the nicest person in the world is not going to accept that narcissist doing things to people that you love. So it kind of is best that they stay away from other people. I know that I've put up with some things in my life, but believe me, if ever there was a situation where I now see you're doing something to people I love, Jesus, it's just different type of level. And even then, even when I wasn't who I am now, I still would have reacted completely differently. So yeah, but that's great for sharing that, because I'm sure a lot of people would really relate, and especially if there's so many people now, unfortunately, because of how the economy's gone, are forced in situations where they have to share accommodation with people. And you know, I would just say, please do your vetting process before you tie yourself into long-term contracts with these people. You know, definitely test it out for 3 months or a year. 6 months before you kind of go into year contracts, because it really is hell, and it really can affect your mental health and just your general motivation as well, you know.
Yeah, very, very true.
Yeah. Anything else we got coming up? before we close off? Any other questions from anyone? Oh, I think that is it from questions. Had a great show. But yeah, final top tips. What would we say, final top tips? Okay. From today, start looking at what you have done. I know this is hard. What you have done to support these patterns continuing. Okay? So write it down. What you have done, how you have contributed to this. And this could be in the way of ignoring signs, okay? When you know there were signs, ignoring your intuition, things like that, ignoring your friends and family, what they say. Like, what have you done to continue these patterns? And I would say, if you're really confused, and I say this all the time, you're really confused about what you want in relationships and how you define relationship and what your ideal relationship is. I do something called a values elicitation that is phenomenal at just really drilling down on what you really want and what your harmful patterns are and why you stay in them. Because there are values of yours that are being met in these toxic relationships that we need to find out what they are so that we can reshape your connection to them. So yeah, I would say those things as well. And obviously, if you haven't subscribed yet and you're still here, please subscribe, like, and share on your stories on Instagram and WhatsApp as well. And don't forget to turn on notifications so that you're notified next time we go live. What are your final top tips, A?
I would say find out how you got to the position you are now and what made you stay as well. And usually the answer is in childhood. It's usually something that's happened on the way. It's usually what you think is normal in a relationship as well. So yeah, just finding out that maybe through therapy, maybe talking to a coach, maybe even a really good family member, just someone that can break it down to you and see where that even comes from. And also it's that having some sort of boundaries as well, I would say. You don't know, where to even start. Me and Bianca have got loads of information on boundaries on our page, on our Instagram page. You can always go and look there, because I had no idea on where to even start to putting them down. So yeah, I would say those two, finding out why and also putting down some boundaries as well.
Yeah. And thank you so much, everyone. Like, really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Cardine. I don't know if you've been on here before. Thanks, Alex. We really enjoyed the chat. And yeah, thanks everyone who tuned in, whether you got involved in the chat or not. We appreciate you. We really mainly hope that it's helped you. And yeah, we really look forward to seeing you next Monday.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.